In today's video, we are going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for one of my favourite games of all time that I have waited almost 20 years to be able to Platinum, and that is The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Well, actually, we are going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for the Remastered version released earlier this year, but that is purely because the original 2007 PS3 release never actually shipped with any trophies, and also didn't get any update adding trophies to the game. It had achievements on Xbox, but no trophies on PlayStation, so up until this point you have not been able to earn a platinum trophy for this game. The trophy list itself is relatively laid back. While it does have 51 trophies including the platinum, only 6 of them are actually tied to the main story, and the other 44 are all tied to the different guilds and factions found throughout the game. And if you're purely playing just to earn trophies, this is easy platinumable in about 20 or so hours. Of course, I wasn't just going for the trophies, I was actually playing this game purely because I actually enjoyed the game, and I ended up spending about 86 hours just doing the trophies, the main quests, side quests, unique item hunting, you name it. I was doing everything. It also has 10 DLC trophies tied to the Shivering Isles DLC, but we're not going to be covering those today, and I'll be saving that for a future video. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video and earn this platinum. The game begins like every other good, and I guess not so good RPG, and that is with a character creator. Now usually I'll spend hours crafting the absolute perfect specimen, but this time I didn't. I chose my birth sign as the Lord, made my race a Nord, and then just made some changes to my hair and gave myself a beard. He's not a very handsome guy, I must say, but I will have a helmet on before long, so I won't have to see his face ever again. Anyway, we create our character and find ourselves in a prison cell with the prisoner in the cell opposite taking the piss out of me for being a Nord, and basically saying that I'm gonna die in here. Joke's on him, because I'm actually gonna kill him later in this very same prison. Anyway, the Emperor ends up being escorted down into our cell, but this wasn't to talk about my crimes. Oh no, you see, the Emperor has had dreams of this day. Yes, I am the man of this guy's dreams. No, seriously, I actually am in a certain way, but anyway, his sons are dead and assassins are now after his life, and apparently the secret escape route just so happens to be through our prison cell. Not entirely sure why you'd put it in a prison cell and then stick a prisoner in there, but there you go. And like I said, he also tells us that he's seen us in his dreams and that we won't be remembered for our past, which if that doesn't scream foreshadowing, I don't know what does. Anyway, seeing as we now have a free ticket out of jail, we decided to follow them, and we end up getting split up from them, but this gives us just enough time to get kitted out in some gear and learn the basics of combat, which was just in time too, as we soon find ourselves back with the Emperor and his guards and now have to help them fend off the assassins that are part of a cult called the Mythic Dawn. Now I thought I was doing a smashing job, but apparently that didn't matter, as the Emperor knew his time was up. He then gives us something called the Amulet of Kings and tells us to give it to a man named Joffrey, who apparently is the only one who knows where his last surviving son is. Oh, and not only that, but apparently we alone must be the one to stand against the Prince of Destruction, which I can't lie, I didn't sign up for this, I just wanted a get out of jail free card. The Emperor then gets assassinated right in front of us. We kill the assassin, and then one of the Emperor's guards tells us that while he has never heard of another son, we can find Grandmaster Joffrey living as a monk at Waynon Priory near the city of Coral. Quite crazy how he is just willing to let a prisoner take an extremely valuable and powerful amulet with the hope I actually take it to the right guy, but you know what, fair enough, he has more trust than anyone out there, and I respect him for that. We then pick our skills and attributes. You can choose from a pre-made class, but I ended up picking my own, allowing me to choose what skills and attributes I specifically wanted, and also named the class The Witcher because I am a Witcher fanboy. My reasoning was, I'm a guy, I kill monsters, I save the day. There you go, The Witcher. Anyway, from here we then make our way through the sewers until we find the exit, heading outside into the world for the first time and unlocking our first trophy of the game. From here, rather than continue with the main quest right away, I decided to get the best house in the game, and that is Frostcrag Spire, that was added in the Wizard's Tower DLC in the original release. The reason why it's the best is that not only is it free, but we get a bunch of storage space and our very own enchanting and spellcrafting stations, which are extremely useful. Now don't judge me, but I did then decide to cheat a little bit. I'm going to be completely honest there, and that was because I decided to do a duplication glitch, but it wasn't for potions or anything like that. It was for gold, and purely only for 2 reasons. One, so I could buy the candles needed to unlock both spellcrafting and enchanting back at the tower, and 2, so I could have a butt ton of gold so I could then go around purchasing all of the unique weapons and armor as I made my way around Cyrodiil. So yeah, cheating, but it wasn't necessarily for survivability and to like help myself get through the game in any way. It was literally just for upgrades for my house, and so that I could satisfy my needs for collecting all of that delicious unique loot. Like with my Fallout videos, I am a unique item fiend. To me, they are like Pokemon, and you bet your ass I gotta catch them all, or in this case, buy them all or find them all, but you get what I mean. Anyway, after cheating my life away, I then continued on with the main quest by heading to Wayne and Priory and meeting Joffrey. We give him the amulet and tell him what the Emperor told us, although Joffrey isn't quite sure what the Emperor meant, as far as he was aware, our world was protected from Oblivion and Mehrunes Dagon that rules over it. But it was obvious the Emperor knew something we didn't, and it may have something to do with the dragonfires in the Imperial City Temple now being dark for the first time in centuries. He then tells us that the Emperor's illegitimate son could be found in the city of Kvatch at the Temple of Akatosh, and so we make our way straight over there. However, it turns out that this wasn't going to be as straightforward as talking to the chap, as when we get there we find out that a gate to Oblivion has opened up outside of the city, and now the creatures known as Daedra that are pouring out of it are now attacking the city. So I did what any ex-prisoner now hero would do. I ignored it and entered Kvatch to find the boy. Turns out though this boy was now in fact a man, and his name was Boromir. I'm joking. It was Ned Stark. I mean, sure mean. Okay, for reals this time, his name was Martin, and we tell him that he may in fact be the Emperor's son, and he needs to come with us, although he refuses to leave the people of Kvatch while the Daedra are attacking. So now it was time to do what an actual hero would do. I entered that gate, boy, and got taken to a plane in Oblivion. Now our job was to close the gate. And how do you do that, you may ask? Well, you fight your way through all of the nasties up to the main tower, and then make your way to the top of the tower where you find a sigil stone, and once you interact with it, the world begins crumbling down all around you, sending all of the good guys back to Cyrodiil and closing the gate. And because this is our very first one, we actually get a trophy for doing so. From here, I then helped the city's guards and worked my way through Kvatch, killing every single Daedra I could find, in turn saving the city. Although, I'm gonna be honest, the city was in ruins, so I'm not exactly sure what I was saving, but we did it anyway, and now Martin was more than willing to come with us to meet with Joffrey. Once at Wayne and Priory though, it turns out we once again had another fight on our hands, as the Mythic Dawn was now attacking the chapel, and so we swiftly put an end to all of them. Not swiftly enough though, as the Mythic Dawn had managed to get their hands on the Amulet of Kings, and so now we have a possible new emperor with no powerful amulet for him to do anything with. From here, me and Joffrey then take Martin to Cloud Ruler Temple, which is the hidden stronghold of the Blades, as he should be safe there, and almost immediately he agrees to be the new emperor, because who wouldn't? Anyway, our next mission was to now get the Amulet of Kings back so that Martin can light the dragonfires and stop the Oblivion invasion. We conclude that the Mythic Dawn must have it hidden at their hideout, and so Joffrey tasks us with meeting up with Boris, who was the guard at the beginning of the game that let us just walk off with the Amulet of Kings, as he may have found out some useful information on how to find them. We head to the Imperial City to meet Boris and help him deal with a stalker who just so happens to be part of the Mythic Dawn. He also has a book on him called the Mythic Dawn Commentaries Volume 1, and throughout this quest we learn that there are 4 volumes in total, and finding each of them will help us work out where their hideout is. The first 2 books are pretty common and can be found kind of anywhere, but the 3rd and 4th are a little bit rarer. We end up getting the 3rd volume by visiting a local bookstore owner who actually had one in his possession, however he had already promised it to someone else. Luckily though, the man we needed was in the store, and we managed to convince him to hand it over to us after telling him the Mythic Dawn were actually the ones who killed the Emperor. To get the 4th book, we then had to meet with a Mythic Dawn sponsor who would give it to us personally, and thankfully our boy Gwyneth, who had the 3rd book, already set up a meeting with him, and so me and Boris headed down and attended said meeting. Only for our cover to be blown, leading to a little bit of a fight, but the good news is we made it out alive, the Mythic Dawn members didn't, and we now had the 4th book in our possession. We then find out from reading the books that visiting a specific tomb in the Imperial City at a certain time will reveal the location of the Shrine of Mehrunes Dagon, and finding out said location nabs us another story related trophy. We then head to the shrine and act as a fanboy of the Mythic Dawn, which allows us to pretend like we are joining them, and we find Mankar Cameron, the writer of the books we found and an avid lover of Mehrunes Dagon. He then goes on to give a little bit of a speech, but the most important thing to know here is that he's going to the realm of paradise and says he will return with Mehrunes Dagon at the coming of the dawn, and then steps through a portal taking the Amulet of Kings with him. So yeah, we failed to get our hands on the amulet, but we did get our hands on a book called the Mysterium Xarxes and killed all of the Mythic Dawn members in their little hideout, so I guess that counts for something. We take the book back to Martin and he tells us that while he can't be certain, it may contain the knowledge we need to open a portal to Cameron's paradise and allow us to get back the amulet. However, However, he would need some time to investigate it. We then help Joffrey and the Bruma guard weed out a spy hiding within the city. We end up killing one on our way to Bruma, which was actually brilliant as we managed to save ourselves like a whole 10 minutes of questing, and after searching her house we find out that she wasn't working alone and that funnily enough her other spy friend could be found at the same location we found her at, just at a different time of day. But after dealing with the two spies, that brings us an end to the quest, and Martin then tells us he's made some discoveries. Well, one discovery. He's found out that to open a portal to paradise he needs 4 items, and so far knows that one of them is a Daedric artifact. We then find out the location of the Shrine of Azura, offer up some glow dust, and the Daedric Lord speaks to us. She basically tells us that before she'll give us an artifact we need to travel to a mine and kill a bunch of her followers who also happen to be vampires. Pretty simple quest. We went to the gutted mine, killed the vampires, and then she gave us the Azura's Star Daedric artifact, which I then immediately duplicated because I didn't want to lose an infinitely reusable soul gem after giving it to Martin. After getting myself a copy though, I went back to Martin and gave it to him, unlocking another story related trophy. We then get another quest from Joffrey and he tells us that Bruma has a problem, an Oblivion Gate problem, and of course we have to go and close it. Same as the one from Kvatch, so I'm not going to go into it. We killed the Daedra, picked up the Sigil Stone and closed the gate. At this point Martin then tells us that he has found out the second item he needs, and that is the blood of a god, which seemed impossible at first, but Joffrey with his big brain worked out that Emperor Tiber Septim actually became one of the divines, and thankfully his armor that was sure to have some blood on it could be found in his tomb. But that will have to wait till later, as I felt like now was the perfect time to put the main quest line on hold and focus on the side content and clearing up the rest of the trophies. Now during this time I did complete a whole bunch of non-trophy related side quests and collect a whole host of unique items, but because none of them give you trophies and because I completed so much, I'll only be covering the things that reward us with trophies, which to be honest is literally anything related to the different guilds that we can join, with our first one being the Thieves Guild. Now we end up finding out about the Thieves Guild by helping out some beggars, and by helping out I mean literally just giving them some gold, and we get told that if we want to learn more about the Grey Fox, who is essentially the leader of this guild, then we need to head to the garden in the Lake District at midnight. Once there we find a man named Armand, or Armand, whatever that says. He is basically the recruiter for the guild, and we also find 2 other potential recruits here. Because there was 3 of us though, he then challenges us to a contest in which we have to steal the diary of a man called Amantius before the other 2, and in doing so we'll prove our skills and get us inducted into the guild. Because we are a man of the homeless people though, we ask them for some help and they tell us where this Amantius lives. Once there though, I noticed that one of the other recruits were actually really quick at finding out the location and were about to get their hands on the diary, so I bolted over to the desk and stole it before she had the chance. It didn't really matter though, because both her and the Argonian end up being brought into the guild at some point anyway. We just get to gloat and say that we are a better thief than they are. Anyway, we return the diary to Armand, get inducted into the guild and get our first guild related trophy. Now all of the guilds in the game have their own questline we can follow, and for this guild it all revolves around the Imperials and of course the Grey Fox himself. However, for the Thieves Guild, completing the main quests isn't enough for us to rise through the ranks, as before we have access to them we must steal and sell said stolen items to a number of fences across Cyrodiil first. Not going to go over the stealing random items part too much because it literally is just stealing random items and selling them, but our first main quest is to steal tax money and tax records from the leader of the Imperial Guard named Hieronymus Lex, so that the money could be returned to the citizens of the waterfront. A proper little Robin Hood styled quest right here. Pretty damn easy as well. We end up finding out the records and the money are being kept in the city's southern watchtower, and so we head inside, break into the captain's quarters and steal what we need to, and we then return them to Armand, which raises us to the rank of footpad, and we unlock another trophy. After selling some stolen goods we then get access to our next main quest, and that has us head into the Shading Hall Chapel's tombs to retrieve the bust of Lethasa Indaris. Again, pretty easy quest. I did have to reload a few times though because the guard kept noticing me and I didn't want a fine, nor did I want to kill the guard, because if we kill anyone the guild will charge us for killing them, so not only do we get the long dick of the law on us, but we also get swindled by the people we are working for. After getting our hands on the bust though, we then return to the Imperial waterfront, where we find out that Lex was actually here looking for the Grey Fox and also looking for Armand, and he knew where to look thanks to a spy he had in the guild. So we decide to use the bust we had just stolen to frame his spy in the hopes it'll get him to stop snooping around the area, and surprisingly it actually worked. Now Armand could come out of hiding, and because we did such a fantastic job he promoted us to the rank of bandit and we get another trophy. Our next main quest wasn't really related to the main quest line and just had us helping a Khajiit woman retrieve a ring that was given to her by her late husband and was obviously stolen from her. Turns out it was actually the Argonian called Amusai, who was part of the competition from earlier, only he wasn't part of the Thieves Guild just yet and so decided to do his own thing. Only his own thing now had him sitting behind bars. So it turns out this ring was actually stolen from the Countess of Leowin before the Khajiit ever got her hands on it, and so Amusei thought it was a good idea to try and ransom it back to the Countess, only to end up giving the ring back and getting thrown in jail straight after. Anyway, now knowing the Countess has the ring, we snuck into the castle and into the Countess's chambers, retrieved the ring and brought it back to the Khajiit, finishing another main quest and getting promoted, resulting in another trophy. Our next main quest has us once again dealing with Hieronymus Lex. You see, he and his men have returned to the waterfront and are on the hunt for the Grey Fox, and so us and a few other guild members are tasked with performing high profile thefts across the city, all at the same time with the hope that it gets Lex to move his men out of the waterfront. Our job has us heading into the Arcane University and stealing the leader's staff. Much like with the other quests, this one is also pretty easy, and after pulling off all of the heists, we find out that the city's people have gone into utter panic, and so Lex withdrew his men from the waterfront. We then return the staff to the Mages Guild as a sign of good faith and get promoted, unlocking another trophy. Our next main quest then had us retrieving something for the Grey Fox himself, and that was a book called The Lost Histories of Tamriel. Another thief had already been sent in search of this book, however he had not been seen or heard from ever since, so hopefully we would also be able to find out what happened to him. We find out that he was actually taken to the local jail, however after talking to one of the inmates we find out that both the thief and the Argonian Amusei had been taken by a woman known as the Pale Lady to the Skingrad Castle dungeon, and that most people who are taken by her are never seen again. Well, after following some clues, it turns out that she was actually a vampire, and so we had no option but to put that cretin down. We were too late though, as she had already sucked our thief friend dry, but the good news is Amusei was still alive and he was going to join the Thieves Guild, and he even tells us where the book is. So of course we pick up the book and take it back to our handler, however we don't get promoted just yet as we have another main quest to take on. This has us getting Lex transferred from the Imperial City to the city of Anvil, as he is less likely to be able to snoop around being that far away. So we head to Anvil's castle and get our hands on the candidate list for the job, after which we take it to a forger to have him forge a letter that instead highly recommends Lex, and after giving it to Countess Umbronox, she then has us deliver the news to Lex personally, which he didn't take too well, but at the end of the day my man doesn't have a choice.
I've been reassigned. This is outrageous. The Grey Fox had a hand in this. I know it.
But this completes the quest and we finally get promoted, again unlocking another trophy. Our next main quest has us meeting with the Grey Fox himself, and he wants us to retrieve some items for him that he needs to pull off some massive heist. The first of these items is a magical stone called Sevilla's Stone that is hidden and guarded by a bunch of blind priests at the Temple of the Ancestor Moths. Now, because we can't kill anyone, getting through this area was pretty damn annoying and did require absolutely perfect stealth skills, but we eventually got our hands on the stone without killing a single blind guy and returned it to the Grey Fox so that he can use it to see past the Imperial Palace defences. I then had to steal a unique arrow called the Arrow of Extrication from Breville's Court Wizard, which got us promoted, earning another trophy, and then I had to get my hands on the boots of Springhill Jack from a wealthy noble earl living in the Imperial City. Funnily enough, just asking him about the boots leads him to pretty much telling us where they could be found and that they were underneath the house in the family crypt, although when heading down there it turns out that it was actually a trap and that he was a vampire, so guess who died? I'll give you a hint. He was a wealthy noble earl living in the Imperial City. Anyway, we get the boots and return them to the Grey Fox, and we also question him on how he knew a man that lived over 300 years ago, as Springhill Jack's journal actually mentions him, and this is where the Grey Fox tells us that he is not actually the first Grey Fox and that there has actually been many before him. The hood he wears was called Nocturnal's cowl that was stolen hundreds of years ago, and when the time comes for the Grey Fox to either retire or die, he will pass the cowl on to someone else within the guild, although that person also takes on the cowl curse. He tells us that he's hoping to be the last Grey Fox, so I think it's safe to assume this massive heist he has planned is to do with the curse. We eventually meet with the Grey Fox again, where he tells us that this massive heist he wants to pull off actually involves us sneaking into the Imperial Palace and stealing one of the Elder Scrolls. However, we couldn't just walk through the front door and instead had to make our way through the sewers, which eventually takes us to some old ruins where we use the Arrow of Extrication to unlock a secret pathway into the Imperial Palace. And once inside, we sneak our way up to the Palace Library and steal the Elder Scroll, and thankfully this whole sneaking section was made so much easier now that I decided to enchant every piece of my armor with the Chameleon enchantment, which essentially made me invisible. Anyway, we give the Elder Scroll to the Grey Fox and he sends us on one last quest, and that was to give a wedding ring to Countess Umbronox in Anvil, but not to mention who it was from. She was emotional to see this ring as it actually belonged to her husband Corvus, who had been missing for 10 years. That's when the Grey Fox walks in and reveals that he is in fact her husband, so I think the whole point of sending us here to give her the ring and not mention who it was from was pointless. He could have just done it himself. Basically, he inherited the cow from the former guildmaster 10 years ago, along with the curse that makes everyone who ever knew you forget who you are. Well, they don't forget you, but they don't recognize you. This included his wife. Corvus decided that he didn't want to be the Grey Fox anymore and just wanted to be with his wife, and so had spent the last 7 years planning this heist for the Elder Scroll, as the scroll had the power to rewrite history, and after giving it to him, he used it to change the past and break the curse placed on Nocturnal's cow. He then gives up his role of guildmaster, takes his place back at his wife's side for the first time in 10 years, and makes us the new head of the guild, bringing an end to the Thieves Guild questline, earning us another trophy.
Mom?
And so with the first of 5 guild questlines now complete, I moved straight on to the second, with that being the arena. And to start off this questline, all we had to do was enlist to fight in the arena.
You what? You want to be a combatant? Look at you! My granny could beat you and she's dead!
This questline is pretty easy and basic and literally just has us fighting a number of different combatants, with each one being slightly more difficult than the last. And as we make our way through each fight, we rise through the ranks, and as you can see by the trophies popping in the background, we earn quite a few trophies. I didn't actually finish this questline yet though, as there were a couple of unique items that can only be obtained by doing some pretty weird exploits, I guess you could say, and because again I am a unique item fiend, I would need a couple of other specific unique items that allowed me to obtain these unique items, and this meant we now had to join the Mages Guild and go through that questline. The first step, much like with every other guild, is to just ask to join them, which earns us another trophy. But we haven't officially joined the Mages Guild just yet, and would now need different recommendations from the numerous Mages Guilds across Cyrodiil so that the Arcane University would officially enlist us. Not going to go over all of the quests we had to do, as essentially it just has us helping out a bunch of people, but I will mention one, and that had us helping a guy named Falcar retrieve a ring that someone had thrown down a nearby well. Turns out though another mage had actually attempted to get this very same ring and had drowned because the ring weighed 150 pounds. Jesus H. Christ. Turns out the whole thing was some kind of sick joke on his part, or maybe something more sinister, but there was nothing more we could do, as now he had already left the guild. We even find black soul gems in his room, which for those of you who don't know, these are the only soul gems that can actually hold a human soul, so I think it's safe to say he was potentially practicing some dark arts as well. Thankfully though, Dietzen, who had gave us a hand with getting the ring earlier, was going to make a report to the Mages Council about him and agreed to write a recommendation for us herself, so while the situation isn't the best, we still got the outcome we wanted. Anyway, about an hour later we got our final recommendation and officially joined the Mages Guild, unlocking another trophy. Our next quest had us making our own staff, however when we go to collect the special wood needed to make said staff, we find out that the mages we were supposed to meet there had been killed and that there were actually a group of necromancers nearby. We of course tell Raminus of our discoveries, which shocks him as usually the necromancers stick to hiding. Anyway, he takes the information to the council, we sort out getting our staff, and we get promoted, unlocking another trophy. So our next quest has us literally going to get a book from the Count of Skingrad. Yep, it's as ridiculous as it sounds. We are supposed to be a mage, but instead we are being sent on fetch quests. Anyway, turns out the Count didn't want to speak to us, but his servant, or whatever he's actually called, said he'd try to change his mind. So the next day we went back and the guy told us that the Count wants to meet us outside of the town near an old mine after 2 AM. This is definitely a trap, but we go anyway. And a trap it was, but it wasn't actually set up by the Count, but instead his lackey that we have been speaking to so far. Apparently he was actually part of this necromancer group, and because we had been snooping around, he wanted to basically get rid of us. But unluckily for him, we got rid of him and his buddies. The Count then arrives and tells us that he had suspicions about his involvement but couldn't prove it. Well, now he can. He then gives us the book and we can return with that and more information on the necromancers. Oh, and also the Count is a vampire, but apparently no one really knows, and the people who do know are completely fine with it. But yeah, we return to the Mages Guild, completing the quest and unlocking another trophy. The next couple of quests are kind of boring, I'm not going to lie, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. For the first, we basically help investigate some old Aelid ruins that had us solving some puzzle and eventually finding an ancient helmet, which I'm assuming is magic, and returning it to the guild nabs us a promotion and another trophy. And the quest after had us investigating the necromancers further, where we find out that the necromancers are making black soul gems, and we even find out how to make them ourselves. It was funny because these black soul gems and anything related to necromancy really is supposed to be banned in the guild, but this questline literally wouldn't progress for me until I'd actually followed the instructions and made one. run. So yeah, I thought that was a bit odd, but we just pinned our creation on the Necros and got another promotion and trophy. Our next quest for the guild had us working for the guild's archmage, and he tasked us with finding and helping the battle mages raid a necromancer den, as well as ensure they don't kill the guild's informant on the inside. That didn't really matter though, as when we got there we kill all of the necromancers only to find out that the informant had been killed by the necromancers already, as they knew he was a rat. Well, now he was no longer a rat, as he was now a zombie. Anyway, completing this quest gets us another promotion and another trophy. We then head back to Skingrad, as the Count had some information he wanted to share with us, but this didn't come free, and he first wanted us to go kill a bunch of vampires nearby so that they didn't reveal his true identity to the public. So of course we kill the vampires, and the Count drops the bombshell that a very evil mage now turned necromancer called Manimarco, also known as the King of Worms, has returned, and so we head back to the guild to tell the Archmage. We also find out that the Mages Guild in Bruma hasn't been in contact with the Archmage for a few days, and so we head to go and investigate that, only to find out that Manimarco and his necromancer group had attacked the guild and set the place on fire. And we now know for sure that Manimarco was behind this, because the only survivor of the attack told us that he saw him with his own eyes. So once again we report back to the Archmage, who once again, like after every other quest we do for him, means he has to consult the council instead of immediately fighting back. What a bunch of wet wipes, man. We are literally Hogwarts up in this bitch. We can take on a few crazy necromancers. Speaking of Hogwarts though, we then go full Harry Potter and get promoted to the rank of wizard, unlocking yet another trophy. We then find out that the council is in ruins and everyone was struggling to come to an agreement on how to deal with Manimarco. This led to two members of the council taking necromancer related artifacts in the hopes to study them further to learn of a way to stop the King of Worms. We first went for the bloodworm helmet and fully expected to get stabbed in the back here, but no, the guy who took it was actually killed by a bunch of Daedra. So we took the helmet back and then went for the second item, which was the necromancer's amulet taken by a woman named Karanya. And of course this is where we get betrayed, as she actually took the amulet because she is now working for the King of Worms. So of course she had to die. We then take both the items back to Archmage Traven and share the tale of death and betrayal. But the good news is we are now a master wizard and we get another trophy. This then brings us to our final Mages Guild quest, and that has us finally taking the fight to the King of Worms himself. First though, we needed to take a detour to another one of the necromancer's layers, as they had created quite a unique black soul gem called the Colossal Black Soul Gem, and we needed that so that Traven could literally give up his own soul and put it in the soul gem so that Manimarco's attempts to enthrall us as one of his minions would fail.
Lead your fellow mages and lead them well. The future rests on your shoulders. Farewell, my friend.
We then come face to face with the man himself, watch him fail at making us his slave, and then put him down for good, ending the King of Worms' reign of terror over the Mages Guild, becoming the new Archmage of the Mages Guild, and earning our final Mages Guild trophy. And yes, I said Mages Guild way too many times. But this now meant I could finish off the Arenas Guild questline. I used the Staff of Worms I got from Manimarco, as well as the Skull of Corruption and some save reloading to get the unique shield that I wanted from one of the enemies. And when I say unique, I mean it is very unique, as not only does it have 100% resistance to all spells, but it also doesn't even have a proper in-game model, so when we equip it, it's actually invisible. I know, right? Wow, pretty amazing. What a waste of time. But like I said, I am a loot goblin. I'm a unique item fiend. I need it. Anyway, a few fights later, we get promoted to champion, nabbing another trophy, and then we eventually find ourselves fighting the Grey Prince. Basically the best fighter in the arena. Well, it wasn't much of a fight anyway, because earlier in the game he sent us on a little quest to find out about his father, only to find out that his father was actually a vampire, and because of the shame this brought upon him, he just let us kill him without even putting up a fight. But this now meant that we was the arena's grand champion, finishing the questline and unlocking our final arena trophy.
Wow! You're the grand champion. I saw your fight against the Grey Prince. You're the best. Can I follow you around? I won't get in the way.
I then decided I was going to start the Fighters Guild questline, and of course, just asking to join up gets us another trophy. But once we joined up, we were just tasked with taking on contracts that just had us helping people around the different towns and slaying monsters until we eventually earned some more ranks. Now, this whole questline, apart from when it gets closer to the end, in my opinion, is pretty boring. Even though some of the quests were pretty cool and unique, we are literally just taking on contracts, so we're going to skip over a lot of it. So here's the trophies popping in the background for the ranks that we earned. But during this we did learn of another group called the Blackwood Company who was trying to compete with us and for the most part succeeding at that. In fact, they were doing so well that members of the Fighters Guild even began leaving to join up with them, which led to a guild member named Arain wanting to investigate them. But unfortunately his initial investigations didn't find anything solid that we could hold over them. That was until we were sent on a quest to find the leader of the guild's son, who was sent on a job and has yet to return. Yep, as you can probably guess, he was dead, but we do find a journal entry on his body that says the job was going well until the Blackwood Company arrived, who then attacked his men and left them for dead. Because of this, Arain gets expelled from the guild for allowing him to go on this mission in the first place, and we are demoted for some reason. I don't actually understand why. We were just doing our job. So from here we literally just had to take on a bunch more contracts until we reached our previous rank, and in the end even ended up surpassing it, reaching the rank of champion and earning another trophy. We then meet up with Arain in secret, and even though he no longer has a place in the guild, he still wants to take the Blackwood Company down, and we end up tracking one of their high ranking members to a cave and even managed to capture him for interrogation. Arain's way of interrogation was just smacking him about, but that was literally getting us nowhere, so I decided to just make this easy and used a spell that made him trust me more than he trusted his own mother. This still didn't get us much information though, other than the fact that the company is over 100 members strong and they are led by a man named Rizikar. We did try to get him to tell us the secret to their strength, but he just straight up unalived himself and refused to speak about it. So from here we then get sent to join up with the Blackwood Company to investigate them from the inside, and on our very first job we literally get peer pressured into drinking tree jizz, which then sent us on some crazy trip, and we find ourselves at a small village killing a bunch of goblins that are attacking it, only to wake up and find out later that they wasn't goblins but they were actually real people. Yeah, we just slaughtered an entire little village. Yeah. And apparently this is a common thing for the Blackwood Company to do. How they actually get away with it, I'm not too sure, but this is what they do, and for some reason they have been getting away with it. So now, of course, it was time to put a stop to the Blackwood Company. We go back to their headquarters, kill everyone inside, including Rizikar, and put a stop to their hist sap making machine, which is the tree jizz I was talking about earlier. Anyway, with the Blackwood Company now taken care of, the Fighters Guild can return to its former glory, with us at the helm as we are made its new leader, and we also get Arain to join us as well, so he can pretty much run everything. But yeah, this now brings an end to the Fighters Guild questline. Pretty boring apart from the end, but we do get our final trophy for that. And this now brings us to our final guild questline, and that is the Dark Brotherhood questline. Arguably one of the best guild questlines in the game, and yes, I said guild questlines 4 times now. To join the Dark Brotherhood we must first kill an innocent person, and then after having a little snooze we are approached by a man named Lucien Lachance, who has seen our thirst for the blood of the innocent, and then he tasks us with killing another innocent man before allowing us to join. Once we do though, we get our first trophy of the guild. Now, like with every other guild, we take on quests and contracts, and the more we do, the more our rank increases, and obviously the more trophies we get. Now, for the first few contracts there wasn't any kind of real storyline to them. They just had us killing a bunch of people that other people wanted dead. It was as simple as that, really. While all of them were fun and unique in their own way, I'm not going to go over every single one, so I'm just going to show some of the trophies popping in the background, but I will mention a few notable contracts though. Like there was one for sneaking into this guy's house and killing him, but we couldn't just use our blade. We actually had to kill him by loosening the fittings on a ball head above his chair, so when he sat down it would fall off, and yeah, kill him.
So, the accident has been staged and Bainlin lies dead. Well done.
We had one of my personal favourites, and that was to kill the guy talking bear shit to us back at the start of the game when we were in prison. We helped someone fake their own death.
Ah, so Mortieri has escaped. Well done.
And we also took part in some kind of murder mystery. Well, I say take part, basically a bunch of people were invited to this big house and we had to kill all of them, with a nice bonus for killing everyone without anyone realising it was us. Really damn fun mission, I must say, and probably one of the more unique missions out there.
Adamas Philida is dead. I could feel my heart swell with the Night Mother's love.
So yeah, overall, we were making pretty good progress in the Dark Brotherhood. The other members were starting to like us, and yeah, it was just a pretty damn good time. That was until Lucien tells us that there was a traitor in our chapter of the Brotherhood, and we have to now go and kill all of our new friends. After doing so though, Lucien promotes us, unlocking another trophy, and then he gives us some more contracts, except this time they were in the form of dead drops. Most of them are pretty much the same as what we've been doing so far, but one of the most notable notable was having to kill an entire family. Mother, children, all of them. It was pretty mad. The messed up part is that we actually go to the mother first and tell her that we will help her deliver gifts to each of her children before just straight up killing her and then visiting her kids and killing them. Pretty crazy for a quest, I can't lie, but it was fun. I mean, can I say that? Can I say it was fun? I don't know. Anyway, the dead drops were going well, but of course something had to go wrong.
No! No! I'm too late. I thought I could get here in time. Thought I could stop you! My Sithis, what have you done? What madness has claimed you? You have betrayed me. You have betrayed the Dark Brotherhood. Why?
Yeah, it turns out that these dead drops wasn't even given by Lucian, and someone had actually been replacing them with forged dead drops and having us going around killing a bunch of other members of the Dark Brotherhood, or in this case the Black Hand, which is kind of the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. So of course we end up investigating who this traitor may be, and while we don't actually find out what his name is, we do find out that the person who did it was doing it for revenge against Lucian LeChance, who had killed his mother as part of a contract many years ago. So yeah, he basically joined up, performed loads of killings of innocent people, and orchestrated the killings of other members of the Black Hand just to get back at him. I mean, this guy went to some mad lengths. What's even weirder is we can actually find this guy's mother's head that for some reason he kept, and what's weirder than that is that we can even pick it up. Our investigation was pretty fruitless though, as the Black Hand, who are basically the highest members of the Brotherhood like I said earlier, had killed Lucian because they thought he was the traitor. But we do get promoted and get another trophy, so that's cool. Now remember a second ago I said we could pick up the traitor's mother's head? Well, dropping this in front of one particular Black Hand member causes him to act very sus.
What? What is that? Is that a head? No, it can't be. Sorry, Speaker. I'm distracted.
I mean, I'm not saying it's him, but it is definitely him. Anyway, we then go with the Black Hand to awaken the Night Mother, which is basically like the group's leader in a sense, almost like a god, to get her guidance on what we should do. Inside of her crypt though, the man that was definitely the traitor all of a sudden tries to kill the Night Mother and the other members of the Black Hand. But of course, we put a stop to him. The Night Mother then thanks us for our efforts and our utter devotedness to the family, and that brings an end to the Dark Brotherhood questline, nabbing another trophy. And so that brings us to the end of literally every non-story trophy, and all we had to do was complete different quest lines. Can't lie, I wanted more than just this, but oh well. Anyway, with the guild quest lines now all cleared up, it was finally time to complete the game's main story and earn our final few story related trophies. Back to the main quest, we were currently looking for a way to open up a portal to paradise, and that has us obtaining a number of different items. The first was a Daedric artifact which we had picked up earlier, and so now we moved on to finding the blood of a divine, and for that all we needed was Tiber Septim's armor, which we got by heading to this massive tomb, finding 4 different ghosts to help us break through a magical barrier, and then taking the guy's armor. We then needed a Great Welkin Stone, which we found after heading through some ancient ruins, and finally we needed a Great Sigil Stone, but these could only be obtained by closing down a Great Oblivion Gate, and only the Mythic Dawn could actually open this gate. So the plan was to have the Mythic Dawn learn of Martin's whereabouts so that they would open a Great Oblivion Gate outside of Bruma in order to kill him, but this would mean an absolute boatload of Daedra, and we didn't exactly have an army backing us, so we needed some extra help. At this point we are then given the quest Aid for Bruma, and our goal is to basically get help from every other city in the game to hold off the invasion, which is for the most part completely optional, but we did it anyway. A lot of these cities, in fact all of them, at first refuse to give any help though, because they have Oblivion Gates opened up nearby and can't spare any soldiers until they have dealt with them. So then we have to go and close them all, so I pretty much just spent the next hour doing that, after which they all pledged to send some men. Well, all apart from the Imperial City because they're dickheads. Anyway, after getting our backup, it was now time to hold off the Daedra and get that Great Oblivion Gate to open. Although, I can't lie, this isn't much of an army. I was hoping for at least a few more soldiers, but each of the cities literally sent us like 2 soldiers to come and help us hold off like an army of Daedra. Like, what the hell is this? So yeah, it was clear that I was going to be doing the bulk of the work, but I'm OP and quite frankly I could have done this solo. So we spend the next 10 or so minutes holding off waves and waves of Daedra until eventually the Great Oblivion Gate opens, and inside we then have to move as quickly as possible to reach the Sigil Stone before something known as the Daedra Siege Engine manages to pass through the gate and cause major damage to Cyrodiil. Honestly, this was the exact same as every other Oblivion Gate except for the fact that we were now on a time limit, but we fight through the Daedra, climb the tower and get our hands on the Great Sigil Stone, closing the gate and unlocking another trophy. With everything we need to open the portal though, we head back up to the temple with Martin, he opens up the portal and we enter Paradise, which I can't lie is oddly beautiful. We then have to find a way to reach Mankar Cameron and leave Paradise, and the only way to do that was through this cave that we could only enter if we were wearing something called the Bands of the Chosen. Thankfully, these were easy enough to get. Making our way through the cave, we of course have more Daedra to fight. Oddly enough though, we actually make a friend called Eldermill, who was part of the Mythic Dawn, but he tells us that he regrets his decision and helps us find a way out to confront Cameron. And eventually we do get to confront Cameron, and he of course goes on to give us a little evil speech about how Dagon will walk Tamriel again and how Tamriel and Oblivion will become one, but we just kill his son and his daughter again and then kill him, taking back the Amulet of Kings and returning to the real world. Also, Eldermill dies here, which is pretty depressing because he was a cool dude. I did try and reload just to save him, but yeah, I think he is scripted to die here, so everyone F in the comments for Eldermill. Once back in the real world though, we then go with Martin to the Imperial City so that he can reignite the Dragonfires and once again protect Tamriel from Oblivion. However, it is too late as Mehron's Dagon and the Daedra had already made it here. So now we fight through the Daedra army so that we could reach the Temple of the One, as Martin now had a plan. And that plan was to break the Amulet of Kings in his hands, literally turning him into a dragon, where he then goes on to have a solo boss fight against Dagon, and we had the best seats in the house. So yeah, Martin literally kicked the shit out of Dagon, killing him and himself in the process and sealing the gates of Oblivion forever, bringing us to the end of the game and earning our final trophy and the game's platinum.
The last of the Septims passes now into history. I go gladly, for I know my sacrifice is not in vain. I take my place with my father and my father's fathers. The third age has ended, and a new age dawns. When the next Elder Scroll is written, you shall be its scribe. The shape of the future, the fate of the Empire. These things now belong to you.
And so with that being the end of the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, and having now earned the game's platinum trophy, here are my overall thoughts on the remaster. I absolutely loved it. The game is pretty much exactly the same as it was many years ago, except this time we have absolutely stunning visuals. The devs absolutely cooked with this, I swear to God. And along with the updated visuals, we did also get some slight tweaks to the difficulty scaling system, as well as some changes to the leveling system to bring it more in line with Skyrim's system, which, believe me, I really do appreciate. I remember way back in the day only being able to really level up certain skills up to a specific point, and the scaling of the enemies were just insane, so I'm glad to see that a lot of that had been updated to again bring it in line with Skyrim's leveling and scaling system. But yeah, along with that, and as I said, the visuals being being absolutely stunning. It is a fantastic way to bring a classic game into the new era of gaming. Everything else about the game is relatively true to the original, which is what I was initially worried about. I was worried they was going to make major changes that would pretty much make the remaster almost completely different from the original. Apart from the graphics and the other few changes they had done, playing through this game again hit me with the nostalgia I absolutely craved. The only criticism I have of not just the remaster but the original game is that the story is way too short. It's literally just a few quests and you're done, but the game does have a ridiculous amount of side quests and other content to tackle that will literally add like 100 hours to any playthrough. And I know I said I only had one criticism, but I do have one more, and that is the trophy and achievement list. You get a few trophies and achievements for doing story specific quests, but the rest of them literally only come from doing the different guild quest lines, which as a trophy hunter, if you're looking to get the game done as quickly as possible, it's pretty sweet. But for me, I would have personally loved to have seen more. Give me more trophies for actively exploring, maybe a trophy for finding 50 locations or clearing out a number of dungeons, trophies for completing certain side quests that aren't linked to the different guilds, reaching certain levels. I just feel like they could have done so much more with the trophy list, but yeah, that's pretty much everything, and this brings us to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, then a like and a share would be greatly appreciated. It shows your support, and your support is always appreciated on the channel. Please leave your thoughts on the remaster down in the comments below, and also let me know if you have played the original or if this was your first time experiencing Oblivion. And finally, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on to stay up to date with everything I upload. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.